Hayes had listened to Corbin's last phone call more times than he could count, so when a voice came through the radio 3 days after they buried him, he recognized it instantly. That was the problem. Corbin was 34. He went off a marked trail in Shenandoah, and it took 6 days to find him at the bottom of a drainage. A fall. Nothing mysterious about it. The case closed, the channel cleared, the call sign retired. 3 days later, Hayes was at a backcountry cabin. No power, no signal, 11 miles from the nearest road. 1 room, a wood stove, and a door. At 2 in the morning, something knocked. 3 knocks, evenly spaced, the way a person knocks when they know you're home. He opened the door and put his light into the dark. Nobody. No sound of anything moving away. He shut it, and that was when he noticed the radio. The case frequency was open, the one that had been cleared, and a voice came out of it, calm, slightly out of breath. "Ranger Hayes, can you confirm whether the markers at mile 4 have been replaced? I keep losing the path." It was Corbin. Not close to Corbin. Corbin. And Hayes went cold, because the markers at mile 4 were exactly what Corbin had been confused about in his last call, minutes before he went off the trail. That detail was in the case file. It was not public. He keyed the mic and asked who was speaking. It answered. "It's Corbin. I'm still on the trail. Can you come and get me?" He radioed his supervisor, who pulled the record and told him what he already knew. Corbin was in a morgue and had been for 3 days. Clear the channel. Don't answer again. So Hayes cleared it, and for about 90 seconds he believed that was the end of it. Then the knocking started again. 3 slow knocks, and this time the voice wasn't on the radio. It was on the other side of the door, 6 feet away, speaking through the wood. It said, "Ranger Hayes, I can see your light." He backed against the far wall with a flare gun in his hand and did not answer, and whatever was out there waited. And then it changed. The next voice through the door was not Corbin. It was his supervisor, the man he'd been talking to 4 minutes earlier on a different frequency. Same voice, same speech pattern. "Hayes, it's me. Open the door." He told me the worst part of his life so far is the 2 full seconds he spent believing it. He sat with his back against that door until sunrise. At first light, there were no footprints, no marks on the porch, nothing disturbed. But the wood around the latch on the outside was warm. Body temperature on a 40-degree morning in a patch about the size of a spread hand. It took 20 minutes to fade while he stood watching it. Something that learned a second voice in under 5 minutes, just to try a different way through the door. Before the next account, how's the weather where you are tonight? Drop it in the comments. I like knowing what it's like out there for you while you listen, and I read every one. We're pushing toward 10,000 subscribers before the end of the month. If this one got to you, hit subscribe. Every single one counts. Thanks. And here's what I can't answer. It knew a detail from that man's final minutes that only the case file held. So, had it been there when Corbin died? Close enough to hear him? Or is it worse that it never needed to be there at all, and it can simply take what it wants out of a person once they're gone? Drop your answer below. The woman standing at the trailhead sign was wearing Allison's jacket and Allison's boots, and Allison had been missing for 15 days. Keating worked that search from the first hour. Allison was 27, solo, and all they ever found was her camp. Tent collapsed, pack and phone still inside, no sign of her. 12 days, no body, case suspended. 3 days after they called it off, Keating was closing a trailhead gate at dusk at the end of a 14-hour shift. alone. And there was somebody standing at the sign. A woman, hiking clothes, no pack, facing away toward the trail. Keating called out that the trail was closed and she needed to head back to the lot. The figure didn't move, didn't turn, didn't shift or wait, didn't do any of the small things a person does when someone speaks to them. So Keating walked up on her close enough to see the jacket. And she knew that jacket. She'd been looking at photographs of it for 12 days. She said the name. Allison. And it turned around. It was Allison's face. Keating had studied that photo until she could have drawn it. Her face exactly, except for two things. It was not looking at Keating. It was looking past her, over her shoulder, eyes wide, lips moving fast around words that made no sound. And it was not breathing. No fog in the cold, no rise in the chest. Keating turned to see what it was looking at. Nothing behind her. Empty lot, empty road. And when she turned back, it was 15 feet away, 30 yards. It had not walked, had not made a sound, was not mid-stride. Simply standing there, closer in the same posture, still staring at the same spot past her shoulder. Keating got her bear spray up, and it stopped. Then it opened its mouth. She says it opened past where a jaw stops, that the face stayed a face while the mouth kept going, and out of it came Keating's own voice. Her exact words from 4 minutes earlier. Her pitch, her cadence, the little rise she puts on the end of a sentence. "Ma'am, this trail is closed for the night." She ran, got the truck started, and looked back once. The figure was at the trailhead sign again, facing away, standing exactly as it had been when she first drove up, like it had reset, like it was waiting for the next person to walk up and speak to it. She filed a full report. It came back marked as a stress-related visual hallucination consistent with fatigue. And that sentence ended her fieldwork, because once it's in your file, it doesn't come out. She took a desk assignment the following week and has not worked a backcountry post since. She still dreams about the mouth, but what keeps her up is the eyes, because they never once looked at her. She said, "Whatever was behind me is what that face was staring at. I was never the threat. I was just standing in the way. A face wearing a dead woman's clothes that crossed 30 yards without moving, spoke in a ranger's own voice, and then reset itself to wait for the next person. Here's what I keep landing on. It didn't attack her. It stood there, and it performed. The clothes, the face, the posture, and then her voice handed straight back to her. Was it showing her what it could do? Or is it worse that none of it was for her at all, and she just walked into something that was already busy, already looking at something she couldn't see? Tell me where you land. The last account is in Washington. This ranger didn't hear a radio or see a figure. Her phone rang. James died of exposure in a storm on Rainier. They got his body out on day 8 and buried him 9 days later. 3 days after the funeral, his phone number called the woman who'd coordinated the search. Okonkwo ran that operation from the first call to the recovery. She'd heard James's voice more than almost anyone alive, because the night he went missing, he left a voicemail for his wife, and his wife played it for the search team over and over, hoping something in it would say where he was. At 2:17 in the morning, her personal cell rang. The screen said James with his contact photo from a number disconnected weeks earlier when his phone came off the mountain dead. She answered. She doesn't know why. Silence, then breathing, then his voice. Ranger Okonkwo. I left something at the search site. Can you go back and get it? She hung up and called her supervisor. While she was on that call, it rang again. She let it go to voicemail. The message was 47 seconds long, and it was the voicemail he left his wife the night he died. Same words, same pauses, same wind behind him, except there were new sentences in the middle of it, spliced in his voice, in the same wind, with the same breathing. Sentences that did not exist in the original. Sentences he never said, because he'd been dead for weeks. I left something at the search site, Ranger Okonkwo. Please go back. It's cold here, and I left something behind, and I need you to bring it to me. She didn't go. Instead, she called a retired ranger named Whitmore, who'd held her job 2 coordinators before her. He picked up on the first ring, in the middle of the night, and the first thing he said was that he'd been expecting her. She was the 4th SAR coordinator on that mountain to get that call. He got his in 2014. The man before him got his in 2008. Everyone exactly 3 days after recovery from whoever had most recently come off that section, asking them to go back for something. Then Okonkwo asked the question she wishes she hadn't. She asked who had called him in 2014. Whitmore was quiet a moment. Then he told her it was the coordinator before him. The one who took the job in 2008 went out on a search in 2013 and never came back, and came off that mountain in a bag the following spring. Whatever is up there does not only collect hikers. Okonkwo transferred parks at the end of that season. She says it wasn't fear that moved her, it was arithmetic. 7 bodies have come off that section of Rainier. She had no reason to think it stops at 7, and she'd spent enough nights awake doing the math on who number 8 would be and whose voice would be on her phone afterward. She said, "I did not want to be the one who answered." A voicemail that got longer after the man who recorded it was in the ground, and a pattern 15 years deep that has already taken one of the people who went looking. Here's the real question. Every one of these asked somebody to come. Come and get me, let me in, go back for what I left. Not one of them ever said what would happen if you did. So what is waiting at the end of that errand? And does it need you to walk there on your own 2 feet before it can touch you? Tell me which answer you'd rather not think about tonight. Subscribe to Obscure Nights right now. 3 rangers, 3 parks, thousands of miles between them, and none of them ever met. A door in Virginia that came up to body temperature where something had leaned on it. A face in Montana that crossed 30 yards without moving and spoke in a ranger's own voice. A voicemail in Washington that got longer after the man who recorded it was in the ground. 3 different things, one behavior underneath all of them. Everyone asked for something. Come and get me. Let me in. Go back for what I left. And everyone waited 3 days. Whatever this is, it doesn't take the voice of a stranger. It takes the voice of the person you've been listening to all week, the one you'd know anywhere, because the point is that you recognize it. It isn't trying to sound like the dead, it's trying to sound like someone you'd open a door for. Lesson 1. If a voice asks you to come to it, that's the end of the conversation. Nothing that genuinely needs help minds you bringing 3 people and waiting for daylight. If it wants you specifically, now and alone, you already have your answer. Lesson 2. Don't answer a channel that's supposed to be closed. Hayes answered once and went from a radio to his door in under an hour, then started trying voices until it found one he almost trusted. Lesson 3. Write down what you saw before anyone official explains it to you. Keating filed honestly and got a line in her file that ended her career in the field. Your own account, dated that night, is the only version nobody can revise. Lesson 4. When something calls you by your title and your name, that isn't comfort. It's preparation. All 3 of these knew exactly who they were talking to, and that is not a kindness. Being known by it is the first step of whatever comes next. If you work out there and you hear a voice on a channel that is supposed to be closed, do not answer it. Not because it is a hoax, because it has been practicing. This is Obscure Nights, where the cases nobody talks about get told the way they actually happened. Good night.